What is up, everybody? I'm finally getting around to watching the first episode of season two of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It was so good. So good. So satisfying. This is Star Trek firing on all cylinders. It's just a lot of fun. Great visual effects. Pretty fun little opening starter episode. We get to see. Well, we won't spoil that here. We're going to spoil it after. So if you have never watched one of my reviews before, I talk all the things. So if you don't want things spoiled, make sure that you've watched the episode first. I think most people have by the time this has come out. I'm a couple days behind right now because we had the internet outage with the whole town being down with both cable companies, and so I'm a couple days behind on getting this review out. But it's Saturday, you guys. It's a chance to relax, go watch this. It's totally worth your time. Um, Even if you didn't watch season one, I think that this is a perfect place to jump into Star Trek: Strange New Worlds because it's a fairly kind of old school, like the first season where it's mostly, I would say, mostly episode of the week stuff with some overarching. Anyway, I'm going to shut up, get into the review part. So, without further ado, here's your countdown: five, four, three, two, go. So, the premise here is kind of a fairly standard the captain's going to go away. The second in command, Spock, is going to be left with the ship. There's a crisis that's going to happen, and that character, the secondary character, is going to have to step up and show that they are indeed worthy of the chair that they've been given during that crisis period. So it's a fairly standard trope that we've seen a lot of different times in previous Trek episodes, in previous other shows. It's not a complex storyline, but the way they pulled it off was very well done. So the essence here is that they're all back on the starbase, and Pike is off for a couple of days because at the end of the previous season they arrested his number one, who has some genetic modifications done to her years ago, and she got caught finally. And there's a strict, she lied on her application to Starfleet, so she's in the brig, and Pike is off to try to get this lawyer convinced to help him get her out. So that's a underlying sub story that's going to be going on throughout this season. We then establish that Spock is left in charge of the Enterprise, and as this is all going down, we get this coded message from Lieutenant Singh, right? And she's, voluntarily took a leave from Starfleet because she's off searching, for the Gorn and all this other stuff related to her storyline through season one. And Spock gets a coded message on the ship and wants to go off and help her. And the admiral is like, no, I'm not letting you go. Like, that she's voluntarily went out there. I'm not going to do anything to risk provoking a Klingon war. Um, all this other stuff, and it's out on the border of Klingon space. No, we're not going. Which, by the way, this episode reintroduces the Klingons, and it's so satisfying. This is a great Klingon episode, in my opinion. It's good to be getting back to sort of a more classical take on Klingons. As much as I love Discovery as a show, I did not enjoy their portrayal visually of the Klingons. I mean, every show is going to have its artistic things that they want to do, and I don't begrudge that to anybody, but I much prefer this classical take on the Klingons, and they're back. And anyway, that's the whole premise of this, is like we don't want to provoke a war with the Klingons. Well, Spock can't take that as an answer. He's like, we have to take care of this, and his brain is going into overdrive, and you know, he starts feeling. By the way, in this episode, he starts feeling the stress of being put in charge of the ship, but he goes to the doctor, and the doctor was like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were feeling the human symptoms of stress. And he's like, no, I'm fine. But dealing with a crisis is part of what he has to deal with here, and the writing of both um, the Vulcan and human sides of him. So it's a Spock-centric story episode on top of the nuance of it being, second in command has to take care of the crisis. As they're so he makes the brilliant decision, and he springs it to his officers like, we're going to steal the Enterprise, and we're going to go off and we're going to rescue Singh and figure out what she's got going on, because her stuff is important even if Starfleet won't see it. So they steal the Enterprise. In the middle of all of this, you've got inspection crews on board, and there's this little old lady who comes up, and it's just, she's hilarious. I don't. It's just her character is so awesome. Like she's supposedly here inspecting, but she realizes all the things they're doing to break the Enterprise out. And she's like, "Oh well, if you want me to keep this a secret, you have to take me with you." And so she's really old, and she's apparently been doing this for over 100 years. And she's like, "I know a plot when I see one." And just a really funny, like Gandalf type uh, character, where she's old and quirky and knows a lot, and she sees through everything because of her experience. And she's a race. I don't remember what the race, the Landishites or something. I don't remember what they said she was. I'm not familiar with it at all. I'm not a deep Trek lore person. Um, in any case, Spock is like, "Well, I guess we're taking this lady with us," and off they go. Um, I would say for me, one of the coolest things about this episode were the VFX. They went all out with this one, from the space scenes to arrival at this planet where she's at, where Sing's at, and when they get here, the subplot here is they find this. You know, super zealotous sect of Klingons who are apparently trying to provoke a war with the Federation. But are they the ones in charge? Who knows if they've been sent to do this? Who's the ones that are going to benefit from this the most? And when they get to this planet, they realize that they're onto something, and they find out that the the group here has in this dilithium mine that's been being mined for decades. They've built an Enterprise vessel, not an Enterprise, but they've built a Starfleet vessel. Um, and they're apparently going to fly this out, stage an attack with a Klingon vessel, and the Klingon vessel will say, "We were provoked by this Federation ship. Now we attacked, and now it's all-out war." So once they realize that, there's just a series of things that happen to leading up to Spock deciding to, we're going to blow that ship up, and not allow the Klingons a chance to provoke it, right? But in the process of all of that, as all of this decision making is going on, so when everybody goes down to the planet, right, to meet with um, the lieutenant, right, Lieutenant Singh, and she's there, and explaining all of this. The doctor and was it Chapel go off and are helping like these sick people that got, this radiation sickness, and they get kidnapped by these Klingons who need them to do, stuff, sciencey, doctory stuff. And they get in here and they end up, because of their background in the war and everything else, the doctor, like he and Chapel like inject this green liquid, and it like turns them into super soldiers for, I can't remember, is that the I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember where that came from. Anyway, they go in super soldier mode, fight their way through to this airlock on this ship, this Enterprise ship. They're like, we have to warn the Enterprise that this Federation ship is going to take off and all this other stuff. And they get to the airlock and the ship is taking off and they can't get off. But what's up, everybody? Commercial break here. I got to give a shout out to our guild champions. It's the highest tier membership here on YouTube. We got Ancient Entity, Crazy as Relative, and Remy D. Thanks so much for your support. And of course, to all of the members here on YouTube, thanks for keeping me on the air full time. If you do like what you see and hear on my channel, don't forget to not only like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, but please support. Consider me your Netflix, your Hulu, your Disney Plus, or HBO, whatever you want to call it. You can do memberships here on the channel starting at $3 a month. And of course, anytime you see me live or you watch a premiere, you can do super chats and stickers on those videos, and super thanks on any upload you see, which allows me to keep doing this full time and paying the bills. So from Chris and I and all of our rescue cats, we say thank you. Let's get back to the video at hand. During that whole process, it was like it was giving us a chance to see the doctor's background in a very visceral way of him and Chapel, and what they saw and during the Klingon War, and their training and bringing that back and just being like some really badass, soldiers who've seen some shit. So I mean, it was a great multi-layered episode with everybody sort of getting their chance to shine in the spotlight and opening up several new storyline possibilities. In terms of, Spock is dealing with emotions. There's the relationship with Chapel. There's the doctor's background. There's the old lady who's joined the ship now. There's breaking out number one, or getting her out from the brig, and Pike, getting a lawyer, or however are they going to break her out? I don't know. Um, Spock gets reprimanded by Admiral, is it April? Um, and like, if you do ever do this again, it's your commission. And then as we get towards the end of the episode, we see the admiral sitting down with other admiralty, saying, Spock, he was right, even though we can't officially recognize that because of rules and regulations. But it's a good thing that he did this, that, and the other, and also, and because what's coming, he says we're going to need good young officers like that. And then they look at the map, and as they're looking at the radar, we see this object appearing on the radar, and it's a Gorn vessel. So, yeah, we've got that storyline going on as well. So there was just a ton of stuff going on here, but I think for me, some of the best visuals I saw um, in this episode were like when they're arriving in the opening sequence, when Pike is still narrating and he's on the shuttle coming back to the Enterprise as it's at space dock. Um, and just all of this, the way that shot happened with the shuttle going in and around, and you get this wide sweeping shot of like Stardock and all this other stuff. But then also when they're stealing the Enterprise and bailing on the planet, it does this really cool flip thing. There's some really awesome VFX that happen in this episode with ship stuff, and then there's the ship to ship stuff that happens. And I've gone on about this in my Mandalorian reviews. I love dogfight stuff. I think that it's a little over the top considering, you know, how big these ships are and everything else. And I don't know that in previous iterations we've ever seen that. Maybe Discovery a little bit, but being able to perform all these crazy maneuvers as if they were a dogfighting vessel, it's a little over the top, but it also is extremely satisfactory from a viewing standpoint when they're doing the ship to ship thing and they're chasing that fake Federation vessel, and it's just flips and twirls and they're going through and dodging proton torpedoes. And there's this one shot where is it Velasquez? I always forget her name. She's spinning the ship in a spiral as this spread of proton. So you've got a spread of proton torpedoes coming this way, and the Enterprise coming this way, and she starts doing a spin to try to avoid the proton torpedoes. And one of them just, as the ship is turning, skids across the underside of the saucer section of the ship and leaves like this trail across the shields. Just some really cool visual effects in this episode. So I have to say, from me, first episode of the second season of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, double thumbs up. Like, this was just action packed, constant forward progression. Opening up some new storylines while sort of continuing ones from the first season, which you don't need to know. You're going to get enough of an introduction if you've never watched this before during the whole, last season, the first minute or so of the show. They'll give you the highlights, and that's really all you need. But if you want to go deep, go watch season one. It's totally worth it. In any case, we're at the end. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Looking forward to next week's episodes. Don't forget to check out the other episodes and shows that I review here on the channel. I'm doing Silo right now, and it just got renewed for season 2, so I'm excited.